Date June 14th, 2015. Title About Israel. This is your luck. I'm reading here from Isaiah chapter 58. And it seems to me that this is not about the Messiah, as I was taught from I was a child in the Christian church. But it seems to me that Isaiah 58 is about Israel. This chapter was used in the Christian church as a fasting chapter because it mentions fasting. But it seems to be, of course it's talking about fasting in it, but it seems to be talking not about a Messiah, but about Israel. Because sometimes I was taught that it was talking about the Messiah who was going to be doing certain things like being the restorer of the repair of the breach. And I'm looking at it now, realizing that the repair of the breach is Israel, the nation of Israel, as the Most High works through them to accomplish those things once they turn back unto Him. So Isaiah chapter 58, I'm going to go through it fast and not read all the verses, so you can read it all on your own if you'd like to have more consideration of the chapter. I'll start with verse 1 to 3, Isaiah 58. Cry aloud, spare not. Lift up thy voice like a trumpet, and show my people their transgression and the house of Jacob their sins. Again, this is not talking about a Messiah as far as I can see it, but it's more like the prophets should be speaking, and telling Israel about their transgressions, their sins, right? Telling them to return. Verse 2, yet they seek me daily. See, they seek me daily. It's talking about Israel, and delight to know my ways. Alright, they delight to know my ways. That's about Israel. They delight to know my ways, not the Messiah, because the Messiah would already know the ways of his Father. He said, my Father are one. What he sees and hears his Father does, that's what he does, right? So he knows the ways of the Most High. He says, my Father are one. But Israel would delight to know his ways. As a nation, see, that is about Israel, about the nation. As a nation that did righteousness and forsook not the ordinance of their God, the nation. They ask of me the ordinances of justice. They take delight in approaching to the Most High. Wherefore have we fasted? They say, have we fasted? Not the Messiah. They, say they. And thou seest not. Again, when, if you read Matthew chapter 4, I believe it is, when the Messiah was fasting and Satan came to tempt him and so on, and he was doing the 40-day fast. Surely the Most High saw that, acknowledged it, right, and his power was with him to resist the temptations of the enemy, and he came. The Most High saw, or the Father saw that fasting and gave him the power to come down out of that fast and begin to minister and heal all kinds of people, and ministry took off and all kind of stuff. So clearly this here in Isaiah chapter 58 is not about the Messiah, but is about Israel, because they're saying here, we have fasted and thou seest not. But the Father saw the Messiah's 40-day fast. So this is about Israel. Wherefore have we afflicted our soul, and thou takest no knowledge? Behold, in the day of your fast ye find pleasure, and exact all your labors. Skip that and go down to verse 5 to 10. Is it such a fast that I have chosen, a day for a man to afflict his soul? Is it to bow down his head as a bulrush, and to spread sackcloth and ashes unto him? Wilt thou call this a fast and an acceptable day of the Most High, to the Most High? Is not this the fast that I have chosen, to loose the bands of wickedness, to undo the heavy burdens, and to let the oppressed go free, and that ye break every yoke? Again, not about the Messiah, but about the nation, about Israel. Because if they're fasting, he's saying they should loose the bands of wickedness. Stop being wicked to your brother. Free your brother. Stop exacting all kinds of things from your brother, keeping him in bondage, right? Release your brother. Free your brother. If you're doing a fast to be free and to be blessed and so on, free your brother as well, and let him be blessed with freedom from your wickedness that Israel had problems with. They were wicked to each other, right? At times. And they should undo the heavy burdens. Not the Messiah undoing heavy burdens, but they should undo heavy burdens. If they're looking for their burdens to be lightened by fasting to the Most High and pleading and begging Him to undo their heavy burdens, He's saying you should undo heavy burdens yourself and let the oppressed go free. Because they were oppressing their brothers, they were oppressing each other. Let the oppressed go free and break the yoke that you put upon your brother. So it's about Israel. Is it not to deal thy bread to the hungry? So if you're fasting, go share your bread with the hungry. And bring the poor that are cast out to thy house. Again, not about the Messiah. They've made the Messiah to seem so miraculous here in certain chapters in the Bible, including this one. But this here, I'm not saying the Messiah doesn't have any place in Scripture. Well, I'm saying in this Scripture right here, is it not to deal thy bread to the hungry, and that thou bring the poor that are cast out to thy house? If they've made the Messiah look so awesome, and say that he's spoken of in other Scriptures, okay. But I'm just saying, for this chapter that I'm dealing with, if the Messiah is spoken of in other chapters, that's not what I'm dealing with. I'm dealing with this chapter and how I don't see him in this chapter. Because he's saying here, if thou bring the poor that are cast out of thy house, which house is the Messiah going to be having to bring people to if this is talking about him? Didn't Jesus, the Messiah, say he doesn't have a place to lay his own head? He was at Peter's house and wherever, and going from town to town and so on, looking for people to come by him and so on. He had to even work a miracle sometimes to get food. But this says, bring the poor that are cast out of thy house. It's Israel that were living in houses that they had. The Messiah, Jesus said he did not have his own place, a place to lay his own head. So this is talking about the people in Israel. Stop being wicked to each other. Stop putting yokes on each other and burdening each other and so on while you're fasting for freedom and blessing for yourself. Free and bless somebody else. Free and be a blessing to someone else beside you. And bring them who are poor and so on, and hungry and so on, to your own house. If you're looking to be filled by me, the Most High, then help someone else to be filled and bring them to your shelter, to your crib. When thou seest the naked, that thou cover him, and that thou hide not thyself from thine own flesh. Then shall thy light break forth as the morning, and thine health shall spring forth speedily. Again, I don't see the Messiah right here in this verse. Thy light shall break forth as the morning. So your blessings and your prosperity will spring forth. Right? Jesus said he's a light. What kind of light does he have? He's the light of the world. He's the blessing of the world. He's the truth in the world. He's the everything in the world. He says he's the light. So his light, if he is what light is, and if he carries light and it's just oozing out of him, it doesn't need to spring forth. When you look at Jesus, the Messiah, light is just coming out of him. Right? Look at John chapter 1 and verse 4. In him was life, and the life was the light of men. Right? And let's look also verse 7 to 9. The same came to bear witness, talking about John the Baptist. He came to be a witness, to bear witness of the light, that all men through him might believe. He was not that light, but was sent to bear witness of that light. That was the true light, which lighteth every man that cometh into the world. Talking about Jesus the Messiah. So the Messiah is just light himself. He can't hide that. The light cannot be hid. City set up on a hill cannot be hid. Light under a bushel, nobody will see it. So why is the Messiah going to send his son in a way where no one can see it? The purpose of light is to be seen and to overcome darkness. So his light, being the Messiah, is just breaking forth, shining forth, oozing out of him, coming out of him all the time. So there doesn't need to be any breaking forth, because that assumes and indicates that something is stopped up or hiding the light, and it needs to break forth after some fasting or after some seeking the Most High. But this here in verse 8 of Isaiah 58 says, "Then shall thy light break forth." Let's look at John chapter 8 and verse 12. "Then spake Jesus again unto them, saying, I am the light of the world. He that followeth me shall not walk in darkness, but shall have the light of life." Right? So he's saying clearly he is the light of the world. So the moment he has a problem with his light shining, whole world is in darkness. Whole world. So how is anybody going to see anything if he has a problem with his light shining to the point where he has to fast and pray for the light to come out? "But then shall thy light break forth as the morning." Right? So by Israel seeking the Most High, fasting and turning back to him, obeying his commandments, their light is going to start to break forth. Their prosperity is going to start to break forth again as the morning. And their blessings are going to start to break forth again as the new morning, if I can put it that way. "And thine health shall spring forth speedily." Again, about Israel and not about the Messiah. Because does the Messiah have problems with health? Was he sickly and diseased? Or was he going around healing people as they taught us in the so-called New Testament? No, this is about Israel, who, after they return to the Most High, their health shall spring forth, and they're not going to have trouble with sicknesses and disease ransacking their bodies and their families. "And thy righteousness shall go before thee. The glory of the Most High shall be thy reward. Then shalt thou call, and the Most High shall answer. Thou shalt cry, and he shall say, Here I am." See, they're seeking him, and now he's going to say, "Here I am." "If thou take away from the midst of thee the yoke," it's from the midst of them. They were yoking each other that they had power over. They had the upper hand over somebody, and they would put burdens on them, put debt on them, and whatever, wouldn't release them, and exact all kinds of measures on them, like the Bible puts it sometimes, and would yoke them so that somebody couldn't be free and keep them under their thumb. But he's saying no. Right? Because the Messiah didn't treat people like that, yoking up people. He said himself, he's going to free you. Right? And the putting forth of the finger and speaking vanity, again, not about the Messiah in this chapter and in this verse. Because was the Messiah speaking vanity? Was he teaching vain things? Or did he speak and teach against being vain? Right? So this is about Israel that needs to get rid of the yokes they're putting on people, get rid of the oppressing finger, the accusing finger, and so on, the cursing finger, and the speaking of vanity. Verse 10, "And if thou draw out thy soul to the hungry, and satisfy the afflicted soul, then shall thy light rise in obscurity, and thy darkness be as the noonday." So there's going to be a turning around. Thy darkness. Israel, when they weren't obeying the Most High, they would, you could say, enter into a time of darkness, so to speak, because things were just not right and the blessings were withheld from them. Their light, so to speak, wasn't breaking forth as the morning. Like the sun comes up in the morning, just a way of saying your blessing is just coming out new and fresh every day and all that kind of stuff. That is what would happen to them, and their darkness be as a noonday. So they would have a time of darkness when they were not obeying the commandments and following the Most High's instructions. But the Messiah did not have darkness, because it said, in him there was no darkness, just light. So this is about Israel and not about the Messiah. Let's read verse 12 to 14. And these will be the last verses, 12 to 14 from Isaiah 58. "And they that shall be of thee shall build the old waste places." Again, not the Messiah being spoken of, but the nation of Israel is being spoken of. That they, not him, the Messiah, or the Messiah, but they that shall be of thee, of the nation of Israel, shall build the old waste places that were broken down, trodden down, of the other nations and armies that were always coming against Israel, ransacking their cities, their towns, their nation, destroying it, bringing them into captivity, breaking down the walls and so on. But he's saying, they shall build the old waste places. "Thou shalt raise up the foundations of many generations." In other words, they're going to be restoring things. "Thou shalt be called the repairer of the breach." Not the Messiah shall be called the repairer of the breach, but he said, "They that be of thee shall build." It doesn't say, "He that shall be of thee," if you want to stretch it and say, "He, the Messiah, that shall come out of thee." No, "They," plural, "that shall be of thee shall build the old waste places, and shall be called the repairer of the breach." they shall be called the repairer of the breach, the restorer of paths to dwell in. They're going to repair the old streets and the walls that were broken down, the houses that were broken down, all the structure of Israel that was broken down, the economy of Israel that was broken down. They're going to repair all those things, the broken paths, and restore paths to dwell in. Right? They're going to do it. If thou turn away thy foot from the Sabbath, from doing thy pleasure on my holy day, and call the Sabbath a delight. Right? So he's telling them to correct themselves concerning the Sabbath. Don't be neglecting the Sabbath like the Most High complained about so much and send our people into captivity because they got away from the Sabbath. The Messiah doesn't have to be called into question by the Most High or brought some instruction being brought to him by his Father to correct himself regarding the Sabbath because he has broken down the Sabbath and has turned his foot away from the Sabbath. No. The Messiah, as presented to us in the New Testament, kept the Sabbath. Right? So this is not talking about the Messiah. This is about Israel, about the nation. And call the Sabbath a delight, the holy of the Most High, honorable, and shall honor him, not doing thine own ways, right? Or finding thine own pleasure, nor speaking thine own words. The Messiah said he speaks what the Father tells him to speak, what the Father shows him. He doesn't speak his own words. So this isn't talking about the Messiah, it's talking about Christ. The last verse, then shalt thou delight thyself in the Most High, and I will cause thee to ride upon the high places of the earth. And that's promises made to the nation, and feed thee with the heritage of Jacob thy father, from the mouth of the Most High has spoken it. So what we're seeing here is that now that we've found out that the Afro peoples who are scattered throughout the earth and who came on slave ships and so on, and the Most High scattered us through, the different kingdoms of the earth. We are the people of the nation of Israel that are alive today. And now that we found out that the other religions were just set up because people didn't love the chosen people of the Most High, and didn't love the Most High, and went ahead, did their own things, set up their own religions and so on. That's what they did. And they've taught us things when we didn't know any better because we were blinded. But the Most High is turning back to us, causing us to see again, because he's restoring us. But when we come into the knowledge of who we are, having been disconnected from it, like Jeremiah 17:4, and now that we're being plugged in again and reconnected, so to speak, to the knowledge of who we are, we're bringing in some of the teachings and thoughts from the other religions, and primarily speaking here of Christianity, because that's what I grew up in, and we are finding it difficult to sever the Christian Catholic teachings from Israelite teaching. We are incorporating so much of the New Testament Christianized thinking into the teachings of the Hebrew scriptures. And we are blending them together so much that we're just Hebrew Christians. We're just Israelite Christians. Right? And sometimes if somebody's been in this a long time, they're like, no, they want to quote 1,500 scriptures just to show you how wrong you are. Listen, everybody doesn't have the truth. If I'm saying something here that doesn't seem right, you teach me. No need to curse me. Tell me I'm going to hell and all that kind of stuff. No, we're teaching each other until the time comes when no man will teach his brother. Right? We're teaching each other. Let me read that. I wasn't planning on reading that, but let me make a point out of that. I'm gonna make a point out of that just to show, because we've got people here who, because they've been in this truth, known that they're the Israelites for so many years, 10, 20 years. If somebody, like myself, who comes in who is new to the knowledge of being an Israelite, myself just a year and a half now, and people want to put you down like you have no clue, you don't even have any right to be saying anything, utter garbage and rubbish. All of us are going to be teaching each other. The Most High deals with different people. Amos, I was reading just this week, he says, listen, I didn't come from a line of prophets. My father wasn't a prophet, right? The Most High just rose me up and told me to prophesy and made me a prophet. So you got people out there talking about, if you weren't taught First, if you don't come to our school, then you cannot prophesy, you cannot teach. Garbage. Garbage. Should we neglect being taught by our brothers and sisters? No. But listen, when Israel is waking up, there are going to be some of us who are not connected to any Israelite group or camp or teacher directly and can't go on the Sabbath to meet with their brothers directly because there's no one in their city or their town or in their little country area. You might have a small town that's probably just got like 1,500 people. There are no Israelite camps there. You're telling me that person can never open their mouth and share the word and teach and wake up their own people because an Israelite camp isn't there? The Most High is waking up by His Spirit. And wherever you are, if you are Israel and there's only 1,500 people in your town, the Spirit of the Most High is going to come there in that 1,500 town and wake you up. People think that they're waking up the nation. No, it's the Most High is waking up the nation by using you. But if you aren't in that 1,500 place, is He going to let that one or two that's there be destroyed forever and not return to their heritage because you aren't there? I was a boy in Jamaica, probably maybe 12 years old. No one around me in all of Jamaica knew that they were an Israelite. And that is a black island that the slave ships went down to, dropped us off there, our forefathers there. No one was there. The only people I knew connected to Israel were the Israelis, the Jews that were there. Right? Yet still, with no one around me, of our people, of our black people in Jamaica, who filled the island, no one knew and taught that they were the Israelites. And maybe I should correct that, because if they knew, they certainly didn't say it, because I didn't hear it. But as a boy of about 12 years old, in the Christian church, because I started really young in the Christian church, at age 11 I think I got baptized in the Christian church, but before that I was being taken to church as a Pentecostal. But about 12 years old, it came to me just like that. Like the snap of a finger, instant kind of thought. Black people must be the real Israelites. Because look how we live, look how we treat each other, look how we're violent toward each other, just like the Bible says. Right? And look how we are poor and broken down and all that kind of stuff, and we're just ashamed over all the earth. Just like the Bible says that I'm reading of now. I never knew those scriptures in the Bible at that time when I was a boy of 12 years old, that the Bible speaks of Israel as being broken down, as being wicked toward each other. Ephraim will not vex Judah or something like that. I never knew all those scriptures. They didn't teach it in the Christian church. But it just came to me. Why? Because even though there was no camp teaching it, the Spirit of the Most High spoke to me. And because my pastor, who was an Israelite as well, just like my whole church, there at the time when I was a boy, they weren't teaching it and didn't know it. I had no one to turn to. I had no one to ask about it. I had no one to run these things by. So I kept it to myself. A couple years later, it came back up. I just kept it to myself. Went to Bible college for a couple of years and all kinds of stuff. Started preaching and getting into the ministry, Christian ministry that is, and whatever, teaching all these lies of Christianity. So you see, the Most High brought that to me, and over the years he kept bringing it back every now and then, but I kept pushing it off. Finally and thankfully, the Most High brought it back again at the end of 2013, that we are the Israelites. So you see, he kept bringing it and bringing it. It's like I had to get used to it over the years, because I didn't have anyone to teach me, so I just left it alone. So he kept bringing it back. Finally, it was just a time for me to not resist it anymore. The Most High says, look, I've come enough now. It's time for you to wake up and start looking into this stuff. And it's funny because over the years, I spent a massive amount of time reading on my own, not in church, but on my own, reading on Jewish writings and the Talmud and, the rabbis and so on. I never knew that we were the Israelites because they never told that in their rabbinical books. But when the Most High got ready, he says, look, I'm going to let you deal with this right now. You're not going to push this off any longer. Why? Because he's restoring his people who were disconnected from their heritage, Jeremiah 17:4. Right? And so it is not the truth that we are taught, that you can only be taught by a camp, because I am proof that I got that from the Spirit of the Most High before someone brought it to me. Jeremiah chapter 31, we'll close with this. Verse 31, behold, the days come, saith the Most High, that I will make a new covenant with the house of Israel and with the house of Judah. You know, all that stuff, that's not what I want. Not according to the covenant that I made with their fathers in the day that I took them by the hand to bring them out of the land of Egypt, which my covenant they break, although I was an husband unto them, saith the Most High. But this shall be the covenant that I will make with the house of Israel. After those days, saith the Most High, I will put my law in their inward parts, and write in their hearts, and will be their power, and they shall be my people, and they shall teach no more. This is the verse I want. And they shall teach no more every man his neighbor, and every man his brother, saying, know the Most High. You know, and it goes on to say, for they shall all know me, from the least of them. So when you've got people saying, you know, we got all the truth and you must come through us, because there are Israelite groups out there that are saying, if you don't get it from us, you don't have it. That's a lie. He says, no one shall teach anymore. And that's future stuff, because we know we're still teaching each other. So just because you've been in this 10 or 20 years, knowing that you're an Israelite, you still need to be taught. And so older people who have been in this for a long time, like you, are going to still be teaching you and correcting you and stuff, and they'll teach their stuff. They might not be addressing it directly to you, but once they teach and you hear it, you look into it and say, oh, yeah, that's really good. And you try to, you change your views concerning that doctrine or teaching in the Bible, right? But it's also the case that people are going to come in fresh and new as the days draw to a close, that are going to come and be teaching things and correcting the ones who have been 10 and 20 years in this truth, who feel like nobody has anything else to teach them. You don't have all the truth. So when people are coming, instead of trying to cut down people saying, oh, you're just a year old, man, forget that. And just start to look at what is being taught. Because if the Most High came and told you stuff 20 years ago and you started teaching, that means year one, you were getting stuff from the Most High. Well, year one for somebody else today, they're still getting stuff from the Most High. And if you don't feel you were wrong, because why do you feel everybody that comes in now is just wrong because they aren't getting from you? Check your scriptures, check your beliefs, and read what the scripture says. They shall teach no more every man his neighbor. Right? That means every man is still teaching each other right now. Isaiah 58. About Israel. And we're still teaching each other because we don't all have it yet. But eventually we're all going to know.